We used to hang around town pretty late. I spent the week thinking about our next day. It was easier then, so much easier then. Or like that time I picked you up outside of school. You said, screw my dad, I make my own rules. It was easier then, so much easier then. Take me back to those easy summer days when we stopped at nothing, babe. Yeah, we stopped at nothing.
Have you ever wondered what your grandparents thought about regarding the 50s, the age of rock and roll and Elvis? Or the 60s, sex, drugs, and rock and roll? Did Grandma wear miniskirts, fishnet stockings, and go-go boots? Did Grandpa have long hair? Or even the 70s? Do you think they went to the disco, dancing to YMCA? I'll bet many of you don't even know what that is. I'm Karen Shaw, and I'm your personal storyteller. We're going to talk about memories and legacies today. Welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Thanks for your interest in learning about Picture This photo books. Near the end of this event, you'll meet Lucia Harper, whose company is the Reliable Optimist Rehearsal Studio, and I'll let her explain exactly what that means later on when she's here. So, there are several different ideas on what to include when talking about your business. How to let you know about us. Well, the correct way seems to be the way the person giving the advice does it. Some say, tell them how Picture This photo books is different. Why you would want to come to me as opposed to anyone else. Well, that's true. Then there are those who say, tell them what you do for them. Also true. And some say emotion is the way. This too is true. Because you want to know all of that, right? So let's touch a little on each one of them. First, a little about me. So I was behind the scenes in print advertising for many years, a major part of the creative process. I created the schedules for each project. I was the troubleshooter, the problem solver. And I tell you more, but I've been told take the short way. It's a storyteller's nightmare I live with all the time. My ad experience has led me to work diligently on the organization and placement of your images. With my print background, it's no surprise I started a company where I design your printed photo books. It was actually my hobby and my passion. And then it became my career and still my passion. Picture This photo books was born, a company that depended on vacations and events, and 3 months later, there weren't any. We were in a lockdown. By the way, I bet you're wondering why I'm always wearing my hat. Did you ever put off getting a haircut? I did, and that's when we landed in that lockdown. I didn't get my hair cut for a year, hence pandemic head, hence the hat. Then one day a woman asked if it was my signature. I quickly said yes. Now I had an official reason, because if I were to walk into a room, you'd only recognize me with my hat on. Well, you'd really only recognize the hat. So this was the beginning of my fourth career. I started networking, and that's when the fun began. Networking groups, Zoom, one-to-ones. My coach, you mean you don't have a Calendly? Calendly? What's a Calendly? To use an overly used expression, I didn't know what I didn't know. For quite some time, I considered myself the fluff of the group. But when I learned all that I do for you, a whole new world opened up for me. There's a photographer who had taken me under his wing at that time, and he would say to me, tell them what you do for them. And I would say, I design your photo books while you go on with your life. And when my new coach asked what I do for you, I said, I design your photo books while you go on with your life. And he almost had a stroke. So he rebranded both my company and me. You name it, he changed it. So now I'm designing one-of-a-kind photo books that tell your story, keeping your loved ones alive, showing who they were before they were grandma or grandpa, so that the generations to come know that those that came before. Imagine those aromas coming from your kitchen, bringing with them the warmth and nostalgia of grandma's recipes. I believe in personal service. I believe your book is anything you want it to be because it's your book. I believe your book should be unique, so I don't use a template. I believe in the romance of memories. I believe in remembering with just a flip of the page. So that's me and how it all started. Now, how is Picture This Photo Books different? First, the attention to detail. I painstakingly adjust every photo so that they look their best and pop off the page. And take the time to place every photo where it belongs. They tell the story, your story. Someone once called me the photo whisperer, as I don't use a template. Your photos dictate their place on the page. By the way, they don't actually speak to me. Every page is different. Every book is different. After all, they're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you. And they're your book. They're whatever you want them to be. I love surprises. Therefore, I put one on the back cover of every book. So don't forget to look for yours. And why do I say they're uniquely you when of course they are? They're your photos. Bringing a smile to your face, adding to that uniqueness is a little anecdote. Perhaps a private joke between you and the person you were with. Bringing a new dimension to this keepsake and making it a book of memories all your own. An example I always use in which I look like an idiot. I took one of my granddaughters to Italy and we visited the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I saw older people going to the top, so I bought tickets. We proceeded to enter the tower. I stopped, looked around, and said brilliantly, "Where's the elevator?" And we both started to laugh. Fast forward to when we received our books. My granddaughter became somewhat nostalgic, saying, "Wasn't that fun and wasn't that delicious?" And then she laughed. So I asked what she was laughing at, and she said, "Where's the elevator?" I had placed those 3 words directly under the photo of the inside of the tower, as you can see here. And what happened is the same thing that happens when your favorite song from high school, the one you don't even wait for the lyrics, just the first 3 notes, and you're standing back in high school. She read those words, but heard my voice say them, and it put her right back in the tower. That makes Picture This Photo Books unique. But the most important thing that makes Picture This Photo Books unique is the heart, the romance, your story. Every Picture This Photo Book is made with love. I know, because I create them. So what that boils down to is that you receive the royal treatment, personalized service, and you have choices. You're not a number. I see you. I listen to you. And I definitely hear you. You tell your story by sharing your photos with me. Your book is whatever you want it to be, the physical appearance as well as the emotion. And you end up with a funny or heartfelt reminder of all those special times. Something you can sit with and remember year after year. They're like meatloaf and mashed potatoes. They're comfort food. Only instead of sending that comfort to your stomach, they go right to your heart and soul. And it all comes to life with the turn of that page. Now, what I do for you. First, I'd like to let you in on a little story. We lost my mother way too soon. My dad was so upset when she passed, he ripped up every photo he could find in the house. I have no photo history of my family or of my years growing up. So please allow me to show you what I do for you and the value that comes with Picture This Photo Books, because I really know it firsthand. I help families who still have their photos in boxes in the garage to create their family history so they can show their kids and grandchildren their great-grandparents, your grandma and grandpa, where you lived as a child, and you as a bride or groom, passing it all down through the generations so your loved ones will never be forgotten. Have your kids ever seen these photos? Do they know their history? Your children will be surprised at seeing relatives they never saw before, giving them a newfound perspective as to their ancestry. And how do you think they'll react when they see you with your best friend in high school, with that hair and those clothes, your high school graduation, and your boyfriends? I help families who have lost a loved one create a memorial through their photos so they can remember them as they turn the pages that tell the story anytime. In fact, I recently met someone who had just lost her mother, and the funeral home created her book. She now has her mother's life story in photos and can finally get rid of the cartons in her garage and photos in that drawer. I assist Grandma or Grandpa in creating their legacy book so they can let the generations to come know the generation that came before. Did Grandpa win a dance contest? How about a pie eating contest? How did Grandma feel when Grandpa proposed? I help veterans tell their story through their photos and text so they can create their legacy to pass down through the generations. I work with business owners by relating their company's story so they can attract prospective clients. I assist business owners in showing appreciation to their staff, new retirees, and their clients so they can reinforce and strengthen the relationships they've created over the years. I bring memories back for those inflicted with Alzheimer's so they can smile because they remember the loved one who is sitting beside them, even for just a few moments. I work with families who have family members on the spectrum, telling their story so they can show the world they're not defined by their diagnosis. And here's what else you can expect. Your photos, the one part of the event that lasts, they're the last man standing. The venue is dark, the flowers are gone, as is the music. The vacation of a lifetime is over. The plane has landed and you're on your way home. Don't leave your memories at Grandma's or on the tarmac because your phone can't tell your story like my photo book can. What about the daddy-daughter dance at your wedding? You look at it and there you are on the dance floor in Daddy's arms. Tears and smiles. Your Picture This photo book holds on to the romance of those memories as it brings you right back there. It can make you laugh or cry years later, keep your loved ones alive through the generations as it takes them straight to your heart. And again, there are your tears and smiles. Time has a way of flying by. If we don't pay attention, those moments are gone, and those sitting at the kids' table are now your grandchildren. So to sum this up, preserve those memories for yourself, your children, and your grandchildren. She blinked, and her baby was walking. She blinked, and we went from a crib to a toddler bed. She blinked, and it was time to start kindergarten. She blinked, and she was the one in the passenger seat. She blinked, and it was time for high school graduation. She blinked, and the wedding bells rang. She blinked, and she cuddled her grandchild in her arms so familiarly. She blinked and started to relive each milestone again. And even though she loved the wonder and magic of each season they shared together, she'd never tell anyone to try hard not to blink. Instead, she'd say, open your eyes wide enough not to miss the blessings each moment right in front of us brings, because each season has so much struggle. Yes, but so much sweetness too. Life rushes on by, and we want to collect all the precious memories we can keep, especially when it was just yesterday my baby was learning to walk, and it seems all I did was blink. Picture This photo books, where remembering is the key ingredient. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you. Remember, it's your history, but it's theirs too. So now, I hate to rush the season, but the holidays are coming, and they'll be here before you know it. They kind of sneak up on you every year, and Picture This photo books make the most awesome gifts. So instead of giving Mom or Grandma another sweater, why not a Picture This photo book of your special times together? Grandma would love nothing more, and believe it or not, neither would Mom. I didn't realize it, but there was a period of about 4 years where I gave my father black leather fur-lined gloves every year for Hanukkah for 4 years. Being the kind of person he was, he opened it and loved them until the 4th year. Then he told me. So instead of giving Dad or Grandpa another tie, or black leather fur-lined gloves. Show them you remember all the times you spent with each other. Or picture this photo book story of the fun times you had with your BFF, those hairstyles, the clothes, the boys, grandma's recipes for everyone, the veterans in your family's legacy. What about a gift certificate for that legacy book? After all, who can tell their story better than they can? And if you're a late starter, you can have an under construction certificate to show them they have not been forgotten. We think of everything to help you keep your holiday special. So, how do we create your story? We begin the process with a free consultation whereby you decide on your options and learn what I expect from you. Sort your photos into groupings, placing those groupings in sequential order, and send them to me. All you have to do is number the folders that hold the groupings. So now let's talk about a way you can sort them with the least amount of stress. I know you believe you're going to sort your photos Tuesday night, but we really know that's not going to happen. A phone call to a friend you haven't spoken to in a while, or a glass of wine and a good movie, they always win over the sorting of your photos. In fact, anything wins over sorting photos. Who doesn't know that? But you will now have my stress-free process that's literally painless. And I created it just for you. Take a look. Looks painless, right? We're all prisoners of our calendars these days, so put it on your calendar as you would a meeting. So now I've talked about things you probably already know, but since there are things I'm still learning, I guess it's safe to say that you are as well. So what's new in Picture This photo books? You know most of them by now, but I'd like to talk a little bit about them. I watched a video recently about a daughter and her father who was suffering from Alzheimer's. He didn't recognize her. He didn't know who she was, but smiled as she spoke to him. It was her special day, and there she was dressed in her wedding gown and veil, ready to be married. She had a dream all her life, and that was to have her father walk her down the aisle. It was something she had always taken for granted, but learned later on, not everything is a given. She was loving, calm, serene, agreeable, and smiling as he spoke to her. He had been an artist, and they would paint together. That was their daddy-daughter thing. There was a table in front of him with paper and paintbrushes. He picked up one of the brushes and began to paint. Suddenly, he looked at her with clarity and knew exactly who she was. And being a daddy's girl, that's when my eyes teared up. He told her she looked beautiful. He asked if she was getting married. She said yes, and he asked, smiling, "Right now?" She said yes, and pointed to where the guests were seated and waiting off camera. Then she helped him to stand, and they walked off in that direction, arms entwined, as he began to walk his daughter down the aisle, alert and aware of who she was and what they were doing together. Of course, we don't know how long that lasted, but regardless, he walked his daughter down the aisle. That's what Picture This photo books will do. Our new book of photographic memories is a perfect way to help your loved ones or your clients to remember, even for just a few moments. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they looked at you and really saw you, as they say, smiling? I remember blowing out birthday candles, or I remember swimming with my family at the beach. or just eating ice cream. Seeing that clarity on their smiling faces as they actually remember those happy times, priceless. In the Save the Date video, I mentioned you would learn why legacies are so important. They're important because of what we don't know and what we'd love for our children, their children, and so on down the line to know. While I was in advertising, I became friends with some of my vendors. This particular one helped some major organizations finding people. When he heard I wanted to do my family tree, he offered his assistance. We decided to start with my father's family. One day I came into the office to find a note from him. It said, "If you're going to lie to me, I can't work with you." I said, "What?" And called him. He told me my grandmother's name was Anna, not Ethel. I said it was not, it was Ethel. He said, "No, it wasn't. Ask your father." My dad was alive at the time, and I called him. When I asked if my grandmother's name was Anna, he started to laugh. And I'm thinking, uh-oh, what does that mean? Then he told me, yes, her name was Ethel. He was the youngest of her 4 children, her baby, and her favorite. She had never done this for any of her other children, but it was very important for her to sign his report card. She didn't know how to read or write, so she went to someone to teach her how to write her name and came back with Anna. Evidently, it was easier for her to learn to write 2 letters instead of 5, so she signed his report card as Anna. And it became obvious she signed something else as well, or he wouldn't have even known. So let's talk about Grandma and Grandpa. Well, who were they before they were Grandma and Grandpa? What do we really know about them? I'm sure they've told you stories from time to time, but you know the real Grandma and the real Grandpa? What they actually felt at specific times in their lives? Perhaps when President Kennedy was assassinated. Imagine a president of the United States being assassinated. Everyone who was around at that time remembers where they were and how they felt. But this only happened in history books. Not this time. What about the moon landing and watching it in real time? That wasn't the norm in those days. What were they thinking? What were they feeling? The same with various wars, when Pearl Harbor was bombed, the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy, same-sex marriages, and of course 9/11. And then there was the silly stuff and the interesting. My mother lived in Brooklyn and she rode horses. Really? Horses in Brooklyn? And my dad, he always loved the theater. And when I first saw him acting on the stage, it blew me away. And one more. We surprised my dad with a faux Marilyn Monroe on a special birthday, and she stood next to him and sang happy birthday to him, as she did for President Kennedy on his birthday. And for those of you who don't know that rendition, you should Google it. His grandchildren were giggling at their grandpa ogling over this very sexy woman singing to him. Grandpa? Well, yes, guys, he's a man.
What greater gift can anyone receive than their parents' or grandparents' stories? Most of the time, you're thought of as mom and dad or grandma and grandpa. What if you told your stories and let them see you as the young man or woman you once were, with the feelings and experiences not far from what they're feeling now as teenage grandchildren and adult children? Picture this photo books, where remembering is the key ingredient. Karen Shaw will create a customized legacy photo book using your stories and photos that can be passed down from generation to generation. The holidays are coming. What better time to give a gift of remembrance that makes you laugh and cry all at the same time? And what better gift can you give than one of yourself? Picture this photo books. Bring your memories back to life. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you.
And so now let's bring the veterans of any age into this conversation. It's important for their families to hear about their experiences in the service. I met some amazing women veterans at an event and heard who they were. One was the first woman to jump out of a plane. These women were awesome. Their families should know all this and be able to pass it down through the generations. Also, on a more serious note, someone recently suggested that these legacy books can be therapeutic. There's a great deal of conversation these days about veterans and suicides, and they haven't spoken about their time in the service to anyone, their experiences and painful emotions all bottled up inside. Who knows? Maybe it would help. No one has to see it. The only person other than they would be me. And I'm not talking. They don't have to show it to anyone. Once it's been printed, just put it away. So now let's go on to the corporate world. I received a phone call one day from a gentleman who owned a real estate agency in Connecticut and was spearheading a huge corporate dinner. Someone on his staff had suggested he call me. He then said, "So why am I calling you?" We discussed swag books. He loved the idea. We had a Zoom call where he saw some of my books, loved me, loved my books, requested a proposal, and there we were, 350 people. This was taking place when COVID restrictions were lightening up, however, and they decided to cancel due to the restrictions they still had to follow. Of course, I was disappointed. However, people come in and out of your life for a reason. Perhaps the reason for this person was not his dinner, but to put me on the corporate path. So here's what I came up with. Take a look. Hi, I'm Karen Shaw, and I'm a storyteller. Picture this photo books telling you personal or professional stories. My photo books, where remembering is the key ingredient, preserve your memories and your loved ones by telling your story, putting a smile on your face and a tear to your eye all at the same time. But let's discuss what Picture This photo books can do for your business. There are several options for your company to choose from and take advantage of. All books as distinct in topic and character as you, your staff, and your clients are. People are not as trusting as they used to be, and if they're not familiar with your company, they may choose someone else to do their business with. We can create your story and show them the way you give back to the community by helping those in need or by sponsoring and coaching a Little League team. That you and your entire staff have a united ethic based on hard work, honesty, loyalty, trust, heart, and camaraderie, as well as the length of time you've been a contributing neighbor. Whether you're hosting a corporate event, saying goodbye to a member of your staff as they retire after so many years of excellent service, or congratulating a client, there's nothing like a photographic story with some testimonials thrown in to make someone feel valued and appreciated. It sure goes a long way. So, let's have a conversation. Call me, Karen Shaw, at 646-798-0809. Or go to www.picturethisphotobooks.com and start telling the world your company's story or create a gift with your very first Picture This photo book. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you. So next, let's talk about those on the spectrum and other special needs. Their book, titled This Is Me, shows who they are, how they got there, and that they're not defined by their diagnoses. I met a young man on the spectrum who's in a rock band. There was a boy with cerebral palsy who was accepted at Harvard. Tim, who is autistic, rides a bike. It may have taken him a little longer to learn, but he's riding a bike. I recently met a young man who's in a rock band. He's on the spectrum. I read about a boy with cerebral palsy who was accepted to Harvard. I've seen hearing impaired actors and actresses on TV or in the movies. I'm Karen Shaw, and I'm your personal storyteller. My Picture This photo books tells your story through your photos. People, young or old, can be so many things, but especially different. However, They often have the same likes and dislikes as you have, as well as some of the same accomplishments. They have a favorite ice cream, a best friend, a puppy. They love pizza, and they love riding their bike. Perhaps it took a little longer to learn, but they did it. This Is Me is a photo book just like all the others, except it's designed to let others know they are not defined by their diagnoses, whatever it is, and it's their story to tell. Interestingly enough, it can be turned around, and when frustration sets in at the lack of ability to accomplish something, or if a bully says something upsetting, all they have to do is pick up that book, open it, and realize, this is me, and be proud. As I mentioned in that video, this book also works to reinforce they're not defined by their diagnosis when they become frustrated at having difficulty performing a task that others can accomplish easily. Just open the book, take a look, and see who you really are, and say, this is me. This is who I am. So, having said all that, take a look at this. Can we talk about story time with Karen for a minute or 5? One day my coach called and said, do you know you're a storyteller? Even your emails tell stories? Well, I've always been told to take the short way. And so story time with Karen was born. Picture this photo books, tell your story, while story time with Karen reminds you of your story. We're all different, yet we're all the same. The aromas that emanated from your grandmother's kitchen may have been different than those that came out of my grandmother's. However, the memories and nostalgia, the same. We all have traditions which are totally different, but the memories and nostalgia, the same. I don't necessarily get a lot of comments, but I cherish the ones I do get. I hear the memories come flooding back to those who watch them, and I love that. Take a look.
I'd like you to join me on a journey through Storytime with Karen on YouTube every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. An awareness of our emotions is important, and as the stories roll out, we feel it. Heartfelt or happy tears and smiles, all at the same time. Storytime with Karen will have you remembering your own, bringing loved ones to the forefront of your memory, as well as your special milestones. These stories will jog your memories and help to preserve new ones. So grab your phone or computer, because Karen's going to bring your memories back to life.
I share my stories every Wednesday between 12:30 and 1 p.m. on LinkedIn and YouTube. So take a look and let me know your thoughts. Now for the fun part, your gifts. Compliments of Melinda Brown at Trinity World Travel. So just scan this QR code or go to the website listed here. Submit it and you'll receive your $100 hotel savings card. If you don't see it in your inbox, check your spam for an email from Trinity World Travel. This card does not expire and the balance can be used in part or full until the value has been spent. How great is this? Makes me feel like Oprah. So now I have somebody I'd like you to meet. My new friend from Ottawa, Canada. She's great at what she does, and she's a real character. Lucia, you're on.
Hello, my darling friend. Really thrilled to be here today. It's been amazing to sit here and watch all those beautiful images and to have all my feelings stimulated with the storytelling opportunities of your wonderful product. If you haven't worked with Karen, you've got to work with Karen because she is indeed one of the best storytellers I know. She's all warm and fuzzy. She makes it easy. Can't recommend her enough. I like her so much, I made her a buddy of mine. So I am the founder and CEO of the Reliable Optimist Rehearsal Studios, and I make people talk more gooder. So I work with entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and I also work with private citizens to help them give super duper celebration speeches, even eulogies. We cover the full gamut. My favorite thing is to really improve people's confidence when they're speaking, put them through a few gamified rehearsals so it's not so nerve-wracking. Karen, what's your favorite part of helping people with their stories? And are there any particular challenges that you've noticed in your clientele that you've helped them overcome?
Well, as far as the challenges go, it's basically the photo sorting. That seems to be the real bump in the road, and that's why I ended up creating that little process there. It really is easy peasy. And as far as the best part, well, there are two best parts for me. One best part is actually working on the books. I love it. I go into the zone. I can start at 9 o'clock. The next thing I know, it's dark outside, and I look and it's like 8 o'clock at night, or in the wintertime, it's maybe a little earlier. It didn't even dawn on me that, the day has just gone by. I just love it. And the other part that I love so much is when I get to see them open their book and see their book for the first time and see the tears and smiles, because I may use that and they may be buzzwords, but they're very real. That's what happens when people look at their books for the first time. So those are my two best parts.
It's an extraordinary thing for creative people like ourselves to help people deliver that legacy feeling. And then when they get to open your books, it's amazing because they have this oversight. And they can picture themselves with their families and their friends and their colleagues with these books, the different style of books you have, really seeing the overarching story and really seeing the long game of what's gone on before and how legacy affects our future as well. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Definitely. It's also very interesting how I had this one client who, I said, you really didn't put these in any sequential order. I don't know how to tell this story. And she said, oh, no, it was like 52 pickup. She says, no, just take the photos and just, put them wherever you want to put them. And of course, that totally went against my grain. So I ended up doing a story. I made up my own little story. But
your background in marketing and advertising, you've been a storyteller for, let's face it, at least a couple of years. So, this really, you're so well able to leverage that storytelling skill and to guide people through. The thing I like about you is you're able to reveal portions of their story that they had not considered, to demonstrate value in those stories that they may not be able to see because we lack objectivity. It's subjective versus objective. And I really like that about you, how you've leveraged the length of your career to bring it into such an intimate process with your clientele. It's really an extraordinary experience for sure. I think that's what I like about what I do too, is taking them from brilliance doesn't come in beige, and we're just really helping people reveal the best in themselves. And that's what I really like about training people to speak with confidence and to be relaxed and to take care of their audiences. And we're both kind of doing the same thing, just with very different mediums. Karen, I really appreciate you giving me a few minutes on your screen, and I'm honored to stand beside you as always, my friend.
Wow, thank you so much. I didn't expect your whole talk to be a commercial for me, but I appreciate that very much. And I look forward to actually meeting you for the first time when I go to Canada.
You guys, we only know each other online, and in November we get to hug.
So thank you for all that, Lucia. I'm only working 24/7, but living the mantra, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Maya Angelou once said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style." And that's how I love to create my books. Remember, Picture This photo books bring your memories back to life. They're whimsical, casual, or formal, and always uniquely you. And thank you for spending this time with me and learning all about Picture This photo books. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I want to thank Dave Berger, Kurt Roskopf, Emily Galmar, Melinda Brown, of course, and Lucia Harper for their support. If you're open to a conversation, here's my contact information. I appreciate your support and that you took time out of your day to spend it with me. And I look forward to telling your story in your very first Picture This photo books. Stay safe.
We used to hang around town pretty late. I spent the week thinking about our next day. It was easier then, so much easier then. Or like that time I picked you up outside of school. You said, screw my dad, I make my own rules. It was easier then, so much easier then. Take me back to those easy summer days when we stopped at nothing, babe. Yeah, we stopped at nothing.